So if you take a look again at the here, scientists are in agreement over on the copying behavior of apes. No, that's not mentioned. Actually, the opposite is mentioned. Young chimpanzees work out how to open nuts by experimenting. All right? He said something along the lines of trial and error. Here, I'm pretty sure the young chimpanzees learned how to open the nut by trial and error, not by imitating his mother. Okay? So here, maybe trial and error. Chimpanzee behavior is best understood by observing them in their natural habitat. No, they say that chimpanzees in the natural habitat exhibit less reactions. But did they say it's best understood? I don't think this is mentioned. Children are better imitators. Okay, that's not mentioned at all. Chimpanzees in zoos try out fewer actions. That's the opposite. Okay? The opposite of this argument is given here. In the zoo, so chimpanzees in the zoo exhibited a greater range of activities than the more limited and focused set of actions we had seen in the wild. In the zoo, that experimented with a host of less useful actions. Right? Next, activities such as ant dipping are more rare among chimpanzees these days. Here, we're talking about it is difficult to imagine how chimpanzees could develop certain geographic variations in activities such as ant dipping and parasite handling without copying. They must be imitated. They never mention anything about the reduction. So this is also crossed out. All right. So now we're in a bind. All right. We only have two choices again. We are not in agreement. All right. Young chimpanzees. Chimpanzee behavior is best understood. Children are better imitators than chimpanzees, perhaps. Try out fewer actions than those in the wild. All right. We need to take a look at this again. Experimenting is right. All right. Chimpanzees' observation of parent behavior is vital to their behavior. So this is an answer. And another answer is, here it is. Chimpanzees in zoos try out fewer actions than in the wild. In fact, I see here, in the zoo, without the benefit of existing traditions, that the chimpanzees experimented with a host of less useful actions. Greater range of activities. As it turns out, the chimpanzees in the zoo exhibited a greater range of activities than the more limited and focused set of actions we had seen in the wild. So as you can see, it's a bit difficult. You have to focus on understanding the sentence and then finding its corresponding one in the text. So of course, let's consider this to be wrong. Zoos, and understood by observing them in their natural habitat. Zoos, fewer actions than those in the wild. No, in the wild they say that they are less and more focused. Most useful. In the zoo, without the benefits, the chimpanzees with a host of less useful actions. So the actions are a bit less useful. It's not less. It's less useful. More useful, less useful. It's not usefuler. It's more useful. So let's take a look in the natural habitats. And which is the clearest way to establish is through laboratory experiments. Here, it can be furthermore and the clearest way is through laboratory experiments. Okay? The clearest way to establish how chimpanzees learn is through laboratory experiments. So is best understood? No, they said laboratory experiments. So if I had to choose, I would choose this one, E. Chimpanzees in zoos try out fewer actions than those in the wild. This is a host of less useful actions. Findings take very difficult. Alright, we will get back, but let's continue. Classify the following as being a feature of Wheaton's, Birch's, both experiments and neither. Alright, now we're talking about an experiment. Wheaton's experiment is made in the lab, I think. Yes. Alright, and Birch is made in the zoo. So, two different groups of chimpanzees were observed. Two different groups. Let's get back here. Come on. One of us here, artificial fruits, animals in this one group and a second group. Alright? 3-year-old children as subjects. Just a moment. And then we recorded the extent to which chimpanzees have been influenced by the method we used. Was a comparison at 60-year-old chimpanzee show imitative behavior that is markedly like that seen in children, although the accuracy of their copying tends to be poorer. Oh, sorry. So, by the way, since we haven't read, children are better imitators than chimpanzees is the right answer, not me. Alright? So, I have originally just thrown children out of my book. This is a mistake that even I have made. So, please do not try and do what I've just done here and avoid the, or solve a question without just making sure it's in the text. Alright, so children are better imitators, and so you will see that they are written almost literally, but paraphrased. So the first, the lab experiment experimented with two groups. Here, the zoo hammers nuts, we then monitor the behavior of the play captive. The chimpanzees in the zoo, cultural steering down direction in the zoo. Again, for chimpanzees in the zoo hammers are not similar to those in the wilds. We then monitored by the captive chimpanzees. They didn't say that they mentioned or that they monitored the ones in the wild. So the answer for this one is A. Okay. I'm just going to put a tick here or a cross or something. Okay, so I'm just going to put a tick here, and here I'm writing A. Good. Next. Some of the food items in the experiment were not real. So synthesized food or artificial food. Now, the clearest way, artificial fruit. So it was done in Wheaton's experiment. Gave chimpanzees hammers and nuts, similar to those available in the wild. So again, the artificial food is provided by Wheaton's experiment only. And here it's just the experiment was conducted on humans. It's very clear that it was just Wheaton's as well. They conducted it on children, and they found out that children are better at imitation. Okay? Next. Chimpanzees were not shown how to do anything. Were not shown how to do anything. One of us, in collaboration, constructed artificial fruits and hair, must deal with the wild. In this typical, one group watched a complex technique for opening one of the fruits, while the second group observed a very different method. We then recorded the extent. We also conducted similar experiments. So, the first one has or have observed a very complex technique. Next, In a different kind of experiment, hammers and nuts, they then monitored. Nothing else. They give them hammers and nuts, then monitored. So the third part is also A. Sorry, we're not shown to do anything, so yeah, be careful of this. So actually it's B. Alright? You will see that rewards were used for successful behavior, positive reinforcement. Let's see. We then interpreted this to in the zoo without rewards. We're looking for rewards. We also conducted nothing. The extent to which chimpanzees had been influenced by the method and not similar, we then monitored the repertoire and then no rewards. So the answer here is, in my opinion, none. Okay, neither research project. Good. So, of course, the answer would be these. Okay, A being Witten's experiment, B being Bush and both and none. All right. Of course, you don't have to write every letter. Sometimes they're just like this. Okay. So let's just carry on now. All right. Let's move on to the next part here. Notion and controversial and the really strange things here. These are the vocabulary expressions that match the that were in the text. Notion is idea based on a notion. All right, or notional. We will not say the other forms very much. Anyway, controversial. What's controversial? Not agreed upon. Not agreed upon. All right? Or many people are fighting around this topic. What are the implications? Consequences. Okay? Or maybe even deductions. But I would say that consequences are better. All right? So let's just say consequences. Implication. Okay. Collaboration is when, and I'm just going to show you this one. Here we are. So a collaboration is definitely in a lab, in collaboration with Deborah M. Custance of Goldsmiths College, University of London. So a collaboration here, collab, is when two people help each other. When two people help each other. So collaboration, help. Recorded, I think everyone knows what recorded is to take down or record. It's so easy I cannot find another expression for it. To take down or to save me. Right? Save the experiment. Subjects are, a test subject is the person on which the experiment is made. Okay? A test subject is the person on which the experiment is made. So test or test the animal maybe on which the experiment is performed. Okay. What about monitored? Monitored means to see an animal maybe in a cage or in the zoo or in the wild, to observe. To observe. All right? Of course, you can also monitor someone's performance by taking a look at him and how he works and making sure that everything is okay. Excerpt is short. shown, sorry. Just shown. Okay? I showed him something. Of course, the past participle is shown. Right? Third form. Shown. Interpreted. Alright? Let's take a look at interpreted. How to interpret the results. Of course, they're after the experiments were made. Monitor, displayed as it turns out, maybe. What about here? You then recorded the extent to which we also conducted. Our results demonstrate the behavior. Okay, indeed it should be graphic without copying established and imitating. However, that just is the case. Such a note. No, where can I find interpreted here? I'm a stone can be considered part of the culture. Furthermore, these animals are exclusively here. Inheritance, directions, important implications for any discussion. Effects. Okay. Implications also mean effects. General copies of behavior near West Africa. Wants his attention. Interpret. Now, interpret means to translate or to try to sift through the results of the experiment. Of course, the experiment's results are not just 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. They're just numbered. Okay, they're just in numbers. So monkey number 1 took 15 seconds to open this can, but monkey number 2 took 30. Okay, those are just random numbers. You interpret them by translating them to English. Okay, you say monkey number 1 is faster than number 2, just that. So I didn't find interpret so far. I really wish this was a live session so that you can tell me, but sadly, if you can read it here, yeah, here it is. We interpreted this to mean that a wild chimpanzee's cultural child behavior. So here, interpret means translate, okay, or analyze the results into known conclusion. Okay, translate to clear conclusions. Okay. Findings are conclusions themselves. All right, or better than conclusions are results. All right. So here we are. I believe that the next text would take a bit of a time. Let's just solve one before taking the break. All right. All right. So let's take a look here at, for those, we will now read very small texts and then we will answer these poisonous questions. All right? Almost all of my students complain from the yes, no, and not given questions because they don't or cannot see the difference between yes, no, and not given. Now, in the previous exercises, we have tried our best to see what is there and what is not there. Okay? Now, what is not there is translated into, or is interpreted into two conclusions. The first one is that something opposite to it is given. So let's say that, shall we say, the population of the United States is maybe 80% Caucasian or white Europeans, and 20% other, maybe, or 80 or 20% Africans. Okay, so 80% and 20%. Just for example, I have never seen the demographic analysis of the populations of America, but they are more or less like that. Anyway, so the text says the population of America is 80% and 20%. So in the text, if in the text says that maybe most of the population in America are Caucasian whites, all right? This is of Europeans, so this question is correct, or this statement is considered yes. But if they said that the majority of the United States are Africans, this is wrong. Now, let's just consider that just a moment. Now, a third question would be, no, there are no Asians in the United States of America. There are no Asians. Okay? In the text, they said 80 and then maybe 20. Okay? Approximately 80 and approximately 20. They didn't mention anything else. If you said none of the people are Asians, this is a not given. Why? Because they have not mentioned that that there are at least 2 or 3 people. Of course, they would not count for any part of the population, but the question said there is not a single, or there are no Asians. There is not a single Asian in the United States. Okay? Of course, the question will be much easier than this. They might say 80 and 10%, and then they will tell you there are no Asians, so this is absolutely not given. Let's take a look at here. For those people without a family crest in the signatory, I think a family crest is this shield that is made to represent a certain family. These are mostly in Britain, not royal families. Almost all families, or not all, but many families have a family crest. They come from a family of nobles, maybe. So for those people without a family crest and a signet ring, there is a place a few inches, okay, above the finger where social standing can still be displayed, the wrist. With its ticking heartbeat, the mechanical wristwatch is alive and never felt better. And for most people, the very definition of a luxury watch is a Rolex. This is a knockoff watch that I bought for pennies. Anyway, is a Rolex. It has a mystical aura of high fashion, high quality, and high price. It is the most popular high-end watch, with an estimated 750,000 sold annually, and even more changing hands each year in the second-hand market. Of course, the second-hand market is the used items, all right? Used cars, used watches, and so on. Does the writer approve of status symbols? Is he approving of status symbols? This is not given exactly. He's just saying that it is the definition of luxury and so on. If I have to answer yes or no, I would say yes. All right? Because his expressions are really magical. Mystical aura of high fashion, high quality, high price, most popular, high end, and then he said the sales, so he is more or less in agreement. Next. What word in the text paraphrase status? Social standing is the answer. Social standing. Next. Does which claim is yes, which is no, and which is not given? More people buy Rolex watches new than second hands. With an estimated 750,000 sold annually and even more changing hands each year. So I would say this is a no. All right? I would check. I think that these answers are non-repeatable, so this is yes and not given. Anyway, watches are as popular now as they have ever been. They have ever been. is seeking heartbeat is alive and never felt better. Never felt better. So it's still very popular, right? It's not more popular than earlier before, but it's not less popular. And last one, the Rolex is less expensive than it used to be. They have never mentioned anything about the price, so, or less expensive. Most popular, nothing about less expensive. All right, so this concludes our first half of the text. There are 5 more texts, actually 4 more texts like these that will help us understand what the difference between yes, no, and not given. And then we will take some sample texts, okay, to solve general opinions and so on. And of course, I will show you different types of exercises that you need to pay attention to during the test, or different types of questions. Even if I'm not going to show them in the reading section itself, I am dedicating some of the lessons at the end of my course to have sample tests over and over and over again. All right? Of course, the questions I'll try to make or to pick a variety of questions so that almost or all of the questions are provided. Okay? But for now, let's just focus on yes, no, and not given. Hello there, and welcome back to the second part of my IELTS course. We have taken a look at the reading section strategies, some of the texts that include how to utilize these strategies and try to understand the text as good as possible, so that we can solve the questions that are associated with said texts. Some of these strategies, of course, is understanding what every paragraph consists of, in addition to trying to know exactly what the writer's opinions are, because there's a big difference between not saying something and saying something that opposes what is given. There's a big difference between not given and no. Whenever something is, or whenever an opinion that does not oppose this opinion is given, an opinion that does not oppose, right? No can never be the answer. Of course, the same thing is said when, shall we say, a statistic or a number that contradicts this number is given. So, that contradicts this number is given, so no, not given cannot be the answer, no is the answer. So, again, if we have an example of America, saying that 80% of the population is Caucasian or European Caucasians, and 10% of the population is African Americans, all right? This does not prevent that 10%, that the rest of the 10% are Asian. So if 10% of the Asians are, or if 10% of America, if the question is, I'm going to write it down here. So the information being given is USA, okay, it's along these lines. 80% white or European, okay, maybe 10% African, and I'm just going to take this here, right, and that's it, all right? So if the question is something like this, the African population are in the minority, all right? This is, of course, correct, all right? True. Another question could be there are 15% of the, sorry, not 15, it's 10. 10% of the population is Asian, Alright, this is not given. Okay, maybe he would give, or he would say something like European, and African populations are in the minority. So this is how we should solve the question. Now let's take a look at the next one. We have solved this. Let's go for this one. Okay. Big publishing, alright, understanding views and claims again. Big publishing businesses do not really understand books. They're good at marketing bestsellers, so they do not understand books. That's a big claim. They are good at marketing bestsellers, but they are incapable of nurturing authors whose books are not immediately profitable. They're incapable of nurturing authors whose books are not immediately profitable. In their obsession with profit margins, okay, profit margins, they neglect writing that might shore up their companies once the bestsellers have been forgotten. Shore up their companies mean still help their companies once the bestsellers have long been forgotten. So we're talking about books that are an instant hit, but not a long one, and another type of books that take some time to, shall we say, to generate their profit. But in the long run, they can create a much better profit than the bestsellers. Okay, the bestsellers are only so for a week or so, but these other books, these amazing or these memorable books, will stay on the shelves of these companies for a lot longer time. So the problem is that these publishers often ignore these other books.